What are the top 10 bizarre medieval myths? The medieval period is often romanticized as a time of knights, castles, and chivalry, but it was also an era of strange beliefs and superstitions that can seem bizarre to modern minds. These myths were not just idle stories, they were deeply ingrained in the culture and influenced how people lived, made decisions, and understood the world around them. From screaming mandrakes to deadly basilisks, medieval myths reveal the fascinating ways in which people tried to make sense of the unknown. Let us explore 10 of the most bizarre medieval myths that, despite their strangeness, were widely believed to be true. 1. The mandrake's deadly scream. One of the most enduring myths from the medieval period is that of the mandrake, a plant believed to possess magical properties. According to legend, the mandrake root was shaped like a human and would emit a deadly scream when uprooted, killing anyone who heard it. This myth was so pervasive that it was said people would tie dogs to the plant to pull it out of the ground while they covered their ears, thus sacrificing the animal to avoid the fatal scream. The mandrake's association with witchcraft and its supposed powers made it a subject of both fear and fascination. 2. The basilisk, death by glance. The basilisk, often depicted as a serpent or a dragon, was another terrifying creature of medieval mythology. It was believed that the basilisk's gaze was so powerful that it could kill a person instantly. This myth was rooted in the fear of the unknown and the dangers that lurked in nature. To protect themselves from this deadly creature, medieval people would carry mirrors to reflect the basilisk's gaze back at it, believing this could kill the monster. The basilisk became a symbol of deadly power, representing the uncontrollable forces of nature that could strike at any moment. 3. The unicorn's healing powers. While unicorns are now largely seen as fantasy creatures, in the medieval period, they were believed to be real and imbued with magical properties. The unicorn's horn, in particular, was thought to have the power to purify water and heal illnesses. As a result, unicorn horns were highly sought after, often fetching enormous prices in medieval markets. In reality, these so-called unicorn horns were usually the tusks of narwhals, a type of whale found in Arctic waters. The belief in the unicorn's healing power reflects the medieval desire to find magic and wonder in the natural world. 4. The power of saintly relics. In medieval Europe, relics, objects believed to have belonged to saints or to have come into contact with them, were thought to possess miraculous powers. These relics could be anything from bones to pieces of clothing, and they were often housed in elaborate reliquaries within churches. Pilgrims would travel great distances to touch or see these relics, hoping to receive a miracle, whether it was healing from an illness or protection from harm. The trade in relics became so lucrative that it led to the proliferation of fake relics, with sellers capitalizing on the deep faith and superstition of the time. 5. The flat earth myth. Contrary to popular belief, most educated people in the medieval period did not believe the earth was flat. This myth was perpetuated much later, largely as a way to paint the Middle Ages as a time of ignorance. In reality, scholars in the medieval period were well aware of the Earth's round shape, a concept that had been established since the time of the ancient Greeks. The misconception about medieval beliefs in a flat Earth serves as a reminder that our understanding of history is often shaped by the biases and agendas of later periods. 6. The fear of werewolves. The myth of the werewolf, humans who could transform into wolves, was widespread in medieval Europe. This belief was rooted in the deep-seated fear of the wilderness and the dangers it represented. Werewolves were often associated with the devil, and those accused of being werewolves were sometimes put on trial and executed. The fear of werewolves reflected broader anxieties about the boundaries between civilization and the wild, as well as the fear of the unknown and uncontrollable aspects of human nature. 7. The alchemist's quest for the philosopher's stone. Alchemy, the medieval precursor to modern chemistry, was shrouded in mystery and secrecy. One of the central myths of alchemy was the quest for the philosopher's stone, a substance believed to have the power to turn base metals into gold and grant immortality. Alchemists devoted their lives to searching for this mythical substance, often working in secret to avoid persecution. The Philosopher's Stone became a symbol of the ultimate unattainable goal, representing the human desire to transcend the limitations of the physical world. 8. Superstitions during the Black Death. The Black Death, which swept through Europe in the 14th century, was one of the most devastating pandemics in history. In the absence of scientific understanding, people turned to superstition to explain the disease. Many believed that the plague was caused by bad air, or miasma, and took to carrying herbs or wearing masks to protect themselves from what they believed were airborne demons. Others engaged in flagellation, whipping themselves in the hope that God would take mercy on them and stop the plague. These superstitions highlight the desperation and fear that gripped Europe during the plague years. 9. The Knight's Chastity Belt. The chastity belt is often portrayed as a medieval device used by knights to ensure their wives' fidelity while they were away on crusades. However, the reality is that chastity belts were more of a myth or later invention than a widespread medieval practice. The idea of the chastity belt likely arose from Victorian fantasies about the Middle Ages rather than actual historical use. This myth reflects modern misconceptions about medieval life and the ways in which later generations romanticized and misunderstood the past. 10. The Legend of Prester John. Prester John was a mythical Christian king said to rule over a utopian kingdom somewhere in the east, beyond the known world. The legend of Prester John captured the imagination of medieval Europeans, who saw him as a potential ally in the fight against the Muslim empires. Numerous expeditions were launched in search of Prester John's kingdom, but, of course, it was never found. The legend of Prester John illustrates the medieval fascination with distant lands and the hope that somewhere, beyond the reach of the known world, there existed a perfect Christian society. The medieval period was a time of deep faith, fear, and wonder, reflected in the bizarre myths that people believed to be true. These myths, from the deadly basilisk to the miraculous powers of saintly relics, reveal a worldview shaped by a lack of scientific knowledge and a desire to find meaning in a world full of unknowns. While many of these beliefs now seem strange or even laughable, they were deeply serious to the people of the time and had a significant impact on how they lived their lives. By exploring these myths, we gain insight into the medieval mind and the ways in which people in the past tried to make sense of their world. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.